I welcome everybody in the chat right now, and I welcome Ainhoa Oyanguren, who is going to talk about what we should drink right now because it's already quite late in the day. It's 5 p.m. in France. It's decaf time. And you are definitely going to talk about this because you really know the topic. And welcome and thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting us here. And yeah, I hope this is an interesting topic for everybody. And at the end of the presentation, we can learn something from this.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we have some time for questions, or of course. So if people in the audience have questions, we will. It'd be a possibility to enrich your knowledge about decaf because, as you probably tell us, we don't know everything about decaf, and some things that we think we know might not be exactly true in all cases for decaf. So we still have a lot to learn, and I'm just going to say that I met you at a fair, in a coffee fair in France, and I had the opportunity with Sandra to work with you and Emmanuel on the Swiss Water booth. So it's not that I hadn't drank any good decaf before, but almost. I think as a barista, I'll just say that unfortunately, when you work as a barista somewhere, most of the decaf coffee bags come already ground, and the grind size is completely off. So it's just an impossible coffee to work with most of the time, unless you're the coffee owner, does what is right for it. And we did it at the booth, and we had great decaf coffee. And we just blew minds and after minds on these 2 days, and it was a lot of fun. And I'm sure it'd be a lot of fun to listen to you today. So I'll give you the microphone. That's yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for introducing a bit. And first of all, I will introduce myself and how I started in coffee. And even if my coffee career is very short, and I started in coffee through Swiss Water. I was ending my university career, and I needed to do a project. And I was very into learning more about sensory evaluation. And so after searching and contacting some companies, we ended up talking with Swiss Water and came up a really interesting project about how we can understand better the Swiss Water process impact in our finished good. And so they wanted to learn more and have more data available to share with people that what it is impacting more the process in the finished good, and what main attributes are most impacted, and the range, and well, these kind of things they wanted to know more. So I just jumped to Vancouver, and I started a project with them. I didn't know anything about coffee, and I think I had a really good start and a really good tutor in that time, which was Mike Stramp and Adam Brown, which where I learned a lot about them and their knowledge. And I just started my sensory understanding how sensory works in coffee and how we evaluate the regular coffees, and then switch to decaf, how they were evaluating. So, so that was a little bit of my start of in coffee. And I started with decaf. So that's
not common.
That's not common, exactly. And so I'm going to share my screen now with my presentation. I think it will be a bit easier to start with.
Okay, we can see it. All good.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So my title for today is Because Decaf Matters. And we always say that, and we also want to get that, is that you and everybody deserves a better choice. And that's what we try to do with decaf, to be a better choice for everybody who wants to keep drinking coffee, but wants good quality and good tasting coffee. So I'm bringing today a little bit of trends in coffee about Europe and USA, how we see the market, also how the Swiss water process works, and a bit of sensory. And the last part, maybe most important, or what people maybe it's looking for, is the tips for roasting. So this is my menu for today. So we can say that decaf has been lately the fastest growing segment in specialty coffee. This is because we've seen that the sales growth in Europe has grown 12%, and it's more seen maybe in Spain market, but also it's growing in other countries within Europe. So coming with the different, the Western Europe and versus the USA coffee category growth, which is led by the decaffeinated coffee, we see that that for sure decaf consumption and purchase is growing, especially in Europe. It's more significant than USA, and this is more because the USA market it's more developed, and also it's like one step forward than us, and we are following them in somehow and trying to work with and to be more known within specialty coffee. And we've seen that in Europe has grown especially in the restaurants and cafes, the decaf consumption about 8% in Europe, and comparing to the USA, which has increased a bit more, about 11%. So as well as the single serve, that which has increased in both of the countries, however being more significant in Europe, where has grown the consumption of decaf, and I think this is due to some reasons or trends that has been showing up. So I'm coming with that. I want to talk about who drinks decaf nowadays and why they drink decaf. And so going through trends, we've seen that the segment in which they drink more decaf is they are young, around 18, 24 years, and this is mostly millennial group that we will be focusing on. They drink in cafes mostly, and they drink all day. For them, this is more an occasion than a beverage that they are looking for, because they still want to drink coffee, and but after certain cup a day, you need to switch to decaf, because otherwise you feel too much, you hurt, and you're getting dizzy, shaking a little bit. And also the main important thing here with young people is that when you're most of the times studying, and that's why you drink maybe coffee with caffeine, and because you want to maintain yourself awake. But it gets to a point in which when you drink too much caffeine, you will get yourself less focused in the task you're doing. So you will feel yourself that you are not productive enough, maybe. So maybe that's why that's why they are aware of the caffeine intake. So for them, it's very important to limit the caffeine intake. So this is about 66% of this segment. It's thinking about when they switch to decaf, because one of the main thing is that I want to be healthy and also sustainable about how much caffeine I take or not, because otherwise you are not balanced.
Ainhoa, can I ask you, are these numbers and this category, age category, is this valid for USA, Europe, both?
So this is more USA based, but yeah, this is more USA based research. Yeah. So we've seen also that this group of people will consume only decaf, or also both regular and decaf, about 42% of people overall within this segment. Then one of the other trends that we've seen, I think, in most of the companies, not only coffee industries, and it's the sustainability value and the clean ingredients importance in the time in which we consume, and the consumers how they act regarding this. Regarding this. Oops, it's regarding
the price
this.
Doesn't care about live stream.
I see. So what I was talking about is the sustainability and the clean ingredients part in when we communicate into our platforms. This is very important to have that in mind. So the consumers are more likely to buy this kind of products that the brand is committed to that sustainability and clean ingredients value, and they are showing it, and they are communicating, and they are reaching to that consumer that way. So these consumers are willing, or are more likely to purchase this kind of products. So I come with this because Swiss Water process is a 100% chemical-free process, and that's why we are also a sustainable, also and organic process. And this is very important to be communicated, because this has somehow an impact in the consumers in the time of the purchasing of the consumers.
The decision.
Sorry, I miss it. Yeah. So as I said, this is coffee is not a caffeine. It's not beverage somehow. It's an occasion in which we drink. So decaf, it's we drink as an occasion, because we the moment we drink this is when we go to the coffee shops and we hang out with friends, and it's a moment in which we want to enjoy and not care about if it's caffeine or if it's not caffeine. We just want to have a really good tasting coffee that remains to that origin, or and also a good quality cup of coffee.
I mean, for many people, see it, it's like it's the coffee in the morning that makes you wanna wake up, or that's the
Exactly. So
not always, but yeah.
not always. You are looking for caffeine for to start the day. Maybe you feel energetic enough to start the day, so you start with a decaf, but it still needs to be a good tasting decaf and quality decaf. And also that we will talk about after, it's the roasting part that has to be adequate to the way they consume as well. So going through how Swiss Water process works, or how we decaffeinate a coffee, it's we need to create first of all. Sorry. So first of all, I want to talk about how was this developed, and this was developed by a Swiss engineer, and it was in the 1900s when they developed, but it wasn't really commercially done until 40 years after. So it took a long time until they tried and they tested that this process really it's going to make an impact in the market, because this especially came because this engineer was very like thinking about how to make a non-chemical decaffeination process, because they were seeing that the chemical process decaffeinators, they were using harmful chemicals to remove the caffeine. So that's why they started with this project in which they created.
So when was that exactly?
So this they developed in 1900, but they started with a commercially in the 1940.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's quite a long time ago already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after that, they built the facility in Burnaby, which is close to Vancouver in Canada. And but now we are finalizing our new facility in Vancouver. So going through the Swiss Water process, to start with the process, we need to create a green coffee extract. I always say with every people which were to whom I explain the process is that for me it's like the sourdough. It's like a starter to remove the caffeine from the bean. So this green coffee extract we create using still water and green beans. We soak the green beans into this water, and we extract all the soluble compounds, flavor compounds of the beans. This liquid will pass through the carbon filter. So, and the carbon filter will trap just the caffeine molecule, and we will maintain all the soluble compounds in the liquid, which this will be our starting point, the green coffee extract. And the green that we have used for this to create this GCE, we will remove because it doesn't have anything that we can take from that, because we have removed all the soluble compounds. So going through the GCE, we have this liquid, And now we want to produce any origin that we want to. So we soak the green beans that we want to produce in this GC liquid, and through a reverse osmosis process, we will remove the caffeine. So how is it that? We will, as the liquid is saturated of the all soluble compounds, but it's lacking of caffeine. In the other side, we have the bean with all saturated compounds. The caffeine molecule will migrate to the water, making that water fully saturated of the whole soluble compounds of the green coffee. This liquid will pass through a carbon filter, which will trap the caffeine, and this water will be clean again with all the soluble compounds without the caffeine. And this will be a closed loop in which it's going to be removing the caffeine from the beans, and this will last around 10 hours, depending on the region and hardness of the bean. Will vary a little bit the timing, but the average of the time of the process is 10 hours. After this process, we will go through the drying process. And this is very critical point because we want in this process to have a target of 10.5% of moisture content. So we try to be very stable on this measurement and the drying phase to make a stable product with having to get a longer shelf life, and also helpful for the transportations when we transport from different countries, and also while storing to have a better longer shelf life and a quality as well to be permanent. Mm-hmm. So after the process, we want to ensure if the decaf that we have achieved after the process, it is the quality that we are looking for. So we cap every batch that we produce. Before and after, we always have a before and after in front of us, 2 cups for each. And we are mainly checking the likeness, how is the similarity between the regular and decaf from the same lot. And regarding the quality, we are looking for understanding how the flavor has changed, how the sourness has changed as well, and how the body has changed regarding the pre. So here we've seen that the most impacted point is the flavor. However, the difference between the pre and after, it's not changing that much. But there are some points in which we can go into detail and analyze deeper, because that's what we do. It's analyze deeper and what it's each attribute, what's it's lacking with or for. And so in flavor, the main character usually it's more muted, and also the sourness is a bit more increased most of the times. Regarding the body, it gets a bit thinner, but regarding the texture, it will be a bit unclear texture. It's not very clean sometimes, but always this is depending of the region, you will get more better likeness or worst likeness. For instance, if we are talking about Colombia or Brazil decaf coffee, we won't see that much significant difference regarding the likeness. However, if we are evaluating an Ethiopian coffee or a Kenyan coffee that they have a particular flavor profile, we will see that the main character is a bit muted. So yeah, as this is a process, yeah, we will see some kind of differences, but always overall, we see that the final product is remaining to the origin. So that's what we are looking for. So here we go through the coffee composition that we are getting after, before and after. So before, we can say that we get soluble flavor compounds in regular coffee about 26%. Regarding to the comparing to the decaf, we get 24%. And here we go through the caffeine composition we will have in a regular coffee. So yeah, so regular coffee will have a 1.2% of caffeine, but here, as we have removed through the Swiss Water process, we will get 0.1 to 0.04% of caffeine. We can't take all the caffeine because there's some little caffeine in it usually, but always it has to be 99.9% caffeine free. Otherwise, you can't sell as decaf. This is a regulation that every country has, and every country it's the same in terms of presentation, in this percentage of caffeine free. So I'm reaching to the last topic that I want to talk about. This is the tips roasting Swiss Water Decaf for sweetness. So here I will be talking about three main points that are important when we are roasting Swiss Water Decaf or in decaf. And first point is the green bean selection, and this is usually for every kind of coffees that will really help to have, as this is a higher quality, it will be easier and it will be a more potential to get that sweetness in our final cup. Then the second point in which we will be looking for when we start roasting is that that we will maintain a similar temperature curve, and so you can stay relaxed that you don't need to make so much changes in your roasting type. And also what I'm going to talk about, it's more related to sample roasting decaf than roasting bigger quantities. So I will start, and our target always is to start between 190 and 204 degrees Celsius, your roasting. Then the main attributes that we will need to be tracking is texture, the aromas that the coffee while roasting it's giving us, and the color shift. And then
can I interrupt you, and can you just maybe clarify what you mean by color shift?
Sure. So color shift, I mean, with this term is when we start roasting, we go through different phases we start with the green color, then we will start yellowing a bit more the green beans, then we'll go to a state of kind of cinnamon color, and finally getting to our roasted coffee color that it's more brownish. And I mean, to control and to have tracking of these points while roasting. Yeah.
Okay.
So the main point when we are the risk that we can have when roasting decaf is that that we can underdevelop the coffee, because as the bean structure has been processed, this will give a soft bean structure, so it's more harmful, and the heat enters easier, and so we can get a darker color in the surface. So we can think that that wow, my decaf it's going to be over roasted, and I need to finish my roast right now, but that's why I need to also to check the texture of the bean surface, and also the aromas that they are giving us, to really be sure that we are roasting it with a proper development time. So coming with this, the tip here is we need to adjust our temperature and airflow. So controlling these variables between the yellowing phase and the first crack, we will obtain a better control momentum. So this will give us enough time. That will give enough time to the decaf to have a better development time to create that sugars in it, so to get more sweetness in the cup. So how we do that? So when we start arriving to the yellowing phase, we need to here to decrease the temperature and also opening a little bit of airflow. So we will have a softer, so the heat won't be stressing the beans so hard. And also, we also want that the time between yellowing phase and first crack to be longer. So we can give enough time to these green decaf beans to develop the sugar, the sugars that it has, so we can get in our final cup a better quality and sweetness and balance. And the last point in roasting decaf is the post-crack development, that also it's a very important point to control, because usually it's not going to be same time as the regular coffee. This will be a bit more shorter.
Can I ask you the sample size that you use for roasting, and or maybe even like the kind of roaster that you're using?
Yeah, so I'm using a Probat roaster, and maximum sample size, it's 110 grams that I'm using to roast. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And so what we recommend when roasting a decaf sample, it's a total time of 6 minutes 45 seconds and 7 minutes 45 seconds. And this not always will be the same, because depending on the roaster type and the quantity you are using for this sample roast will be a little bit changing. For instance, in my roaster, I will go through a bit longer full time, total time, around 8 minutes, 30 seconds. That will be in my probat, the target that I'm looking for a total time. So with all these roasting tips, our goal is to mellow the acidity through longer development time and find that balance between sweetness, sour, and bitter. And yeah, to have a better result in our final cup, yeah. And
Okay.
so before we start discussing or having more questions about decaf, I want to say that taste and quality are key anytime we consume coffee, either it's regular or decaf. And what we want you is to enjoy drinking coffee all day and good coffee. So, merci beaucoup.
Merci à toi, Ainhoa, and thank you. Gracias. Thank you for taking us through the different steps and a few tips as well for those roasters that are listening also. Adrien is already asking whether you share the presentation easily.
So I can.
Okay. So what you can do is to go back here actually, and you'll find after that Ainhoa will send it to me, and I'll put it in the files so you can find it in the upper right of your screen. You have a file little tab, and you'll find the file over here, and you can also download it from our app. So there is an app that you can download, and there is a 4-digit code that you can use to get access to our Rain or Shine. It's 5311, and over there, once you're in Rain or Shine, you can also download the files when you are at Ainhoa. There you go. So we have good comments already. Some people are happy and say thank you. So you gave a few tips for the roasters, but how about baristas like Sophie? Do you have tips for them? Do you think there is some adjustment to be done, maybe in extraction time, temperature, grind size, for sure, and so on, and also for different brew methods, and just not espresso, maybe?
So maybe I haven't talked about the TDS content and that we are looking for the same range as a regular coffee, but for that we need to increase our ratio. And we have a brochure that we are explaining different brew methods and a recipe that can work, and also the grind size that suits for each kind of brew method, that I can also upload the brochure, the guide, as well as the roasting guide. And yeah, so you can have available, and always it's very important, as with the regular coffee, that you have to do trials before in the morning before opening your coffee shop, just to adjust your perfect grind size for the perfect brew method and the perfect ratio that works.
So for the same beans, caffeinated versus decaf, you would say the decaf you need to grind finer?
I won't say you have to find finer. There could be variables. This can be one of the variables. Make it a bit finer, so you can use less amount of coffee. Because if you want to save in your coffee shop a bit of coffee to make more money, so you just find it finer. But for sure, you can do inverse. You can do a normal ground size that you use for regular, but you increase your ratio. So for instance, I have in my guide for B60s, we will use 70 grams per liter in decaf, and in a regular coffee we will use maybe 65, a little bit more or less, but that's also depending on the barista's likes and how he or she likes the finished product as well.
So on like a very simple cupping protocol, and you have the caffeinated coffee and the decaf coffee, and if you measure TDS, what is the difference you can expect?
So I don't have the exact.
Or just an idea, maybe. No, is.
So if we are using the same ratio, we for sure will have a less TDS. As I said, we will get total soluble flavor compounds of 24% in our decaf, comparing to regular that we will have 26%. So there will be a little change. That's why we recommend always to increase your ratio regarding to the water that we are using. To make that to reach to that target that we are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when we are doing a capping, we are not looking for the TDS. We are looking more for the quality control, quality aspect. And so the ratio that we will use is following the SCA rules. It's 55 grams per liter. So that will be used for even if it's regular or decaf. So we can assume that we are evaluating the both coffees in the same situation with the minimum variation between both of them. And the same grind size as well for the cupping.
Yeah. I was wondering as well how can you explain maybe if you know how we measure caffeine is it in a big batch you brew like a lot of coffee, or do you know how we measure caffeine really, like how do you know it's not just a single bean and you won't check every bean to see whether or not they are decaffeinated to 99.9, but then there has to be like a protocol that the industry uses?
So the way we evaluate, we analyze the caffeine content in Swiss Water. It's when the coffee is in the production lines, and during 10 hours, we extract a little bit of the GCE, the liquid, and we do a test to see how much caffeine has withdrawn each time it's removing through the carbon filter and getting a fresh GCE again to remove the caffeine, because it's not going to get all the caffeine at once. That's why we need to work through 10 hours. So there is a period of time which we analyze that water to see how much caffeine we have removed. And depending, and then we see how is the difference until we get 99.9. And after that, we will analyze the dry content of the green beans.
The grinds,
yeah.
Oh, the green beans, of course, yeah.
The green beans, yeah. No,
so how do you, so you make a powder from the green beans?
I'm not very expertise on this, so I
was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know how it exactly works.
Okay.
To get the caffeine content. Yeah.
So you mentioned that was very important for a very important aspect, measure the water, the humidity after the drying. So you aim for 10.5% humidity, if I remember well.
That's
Do you measure as well the water activity, because now it's known as a measure of shelf life as well? Well, known, at least people look at this and try to make to see whether there is a relationship or not. Do you also make this measure?
Sure. We always get both data to be sure that it's a well, maybe I missed it, that part of the water activity as well, that we do analyze that to be sure that it's exactly true that it has that moisture. But usually it's correlated, but when you can see more difference is when you are getting a sample from an importer, or and you are going to evaluate that green coffee with caffeine, and that it's going to go after to the production lines. In that case, in that kind of samples, you can maybe see that the moisture content and water activity, it's not correlated sometimes. And that can be due to the transportation, because of the container, or whatever reason of the transportation, and climate changes can affect that. And so you can see more that difference in a sample that you receive than in our production lines. Yeah.
How much coffee per batch of decaffeination? Like how is it big? I suppose you visited the place. Like how can you give us like an idea of what the facility looks like, and how much coffee there is in the process every time?
So we have two production lines. I think both of them are kind of 10 silos, and they are 24 hours, 7 days per week working to get a decaf. Yeah. Yeah, we are very busy decaffeinating. That's why we work 7 days and 24 hours to, yeah.
And how much coffee goes into these silos?
So we can put in one silo, it's about 7,500 pounds. Which,
it's not in metric over there.
Yeah, in maybe in kilos. Yeah, well,
just if you had an idea, but it's several thousand kilos, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, you can and fit in one silo 7,500 pounds in it, and yeah.
Okay.
So there is always a limit, so we can put more or less than that usually. So, yeah.
There's always a minimum, probably, because it's still like an industrial process anyway. So you can't run these big silos and machines for just a few bags, I suppose. So it's a question from Adrien, because we understand the benefits of not drinking caffeine if we don't want to have caffeine in our body for any kind of reason. But he's also mentioning that caffeine is there's now an overwhelming amount of research to say that caffeine is actually good for your health in general, unless you have
disease or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's not just the caffeine. It's there are also other components which are also important for that health, and that says that it's beneficial for you, and it's like organic acids and polyphenols and and these kind of companies that I'm not remembering all of them, but
Who does?
still are intact in our decaf. So still you can benefit from those.
Do you know if there is actually any research about the health benefits of decaf compared to caffeinated coffee, without even mentioning the what caffeine can bring? But like, is it proven somewhere in the literature that the decaf also have a lot of different health aspects to it?
There should be, but I don't have in my mind that there should be statistically shown that this beverage is making you great beneficials. But yeah.
For these kind of questions, I always have a scientific background, and I take a lot of time always looking for this sort of information. It's very easy to go on Google search, Google Scholar, I mean, and on Google Scholar you have access to all that kind of information very easily. So if you haven't tried it, go for it.
I do sometimes, but I can't get all the information in my brain and bluff.
Yeah, it's a lot of things, and very often, anyway, the sad thing about it is that there's very often not free access to these articles. But if you know the tricks, you get it. But there's a lot of information over there, and there's a lot of information, an overwhelming amount of information about and studies about the health aspects of caffeine. Yeah. And I suppose you haven't read the whole literature about it.
Yeah, it's hard when you're working and you're focusing in some other things, and to stay whole day 24 hours just reading about coffee, and you can't. You need to switch to another thing to disconnect, because not all your life it's about coffee. But when we talk about that, we really enjoy to do. So
Adrien also is asking, it would be interesting. I haven't heard of it, but have you heard of any competitor that has used decaf as a coffee bean? That wouldn't be the first thing to think about, but
that could be any opportunities for us to enter for a competition. But I think if we are planning, or we will do someday, I think nobody will know until the end. So
true. You leave the surprise for the end. Do you have any competition coffee?
Just decaf, you mean?
Yeah. Have you processed any coffee that you would think are of competition quality?
I don't think we had done, but
probably just it's a question of quantity. Just what we were talking about before, because you need a minimal amount of coffee beans, and generally competition coffee is only a few bags, if not less. Exactly. So do you know if there is any way to remove the caffeine for a very small amount of coffee?
Well, I think if you go through YouTube and how to remove a home way of removing caffeine, I think there is some kind of processes that you can do it. But
right.
I wouldn't recommend. But if someone that wants to try and develop a bit of knowledge about how it's working, you can do it. And also to remark about competition kind of coffees, that we are looking for a higher quality, also tasting amazing with very specific and maybe different or not usual flavor profiles. For that, we are always continually doing limited editions that we call small batch series. That we produce very small amounts of these coffees and could be different origins. And lately, we have been doing some Ethiopian decaf, also a Kenyan coffee. We've done some Colombian special ones as well. And the latest one, it's a Tanzanian coffee that we have produced, and we have received it in Europe last week, I think. So yeah, we have available some different kind of decafs that also are a bit more high quality and also limited edition.
Have you been, you were talking about transport, you just received it, so that doesn't mean you received it during the lockdown? Have you been, impacted by the lockdown in general, by the...